When did a game of hide and seek go horribly wrong? From the great British actor David Niven's Wikipedia page, while on leave in 1940, Niven met Primilla, Susan Rallo, the 18th of February 1918, London, the 21st of May 1946. Primi died at the age of 28. Only 6 weeks after the family moved to the US. She fractured her skull in an accidental fall in the Beverly Hills, California home of Tyrone Power, while playing a game of hide and seek. She had walked through a door believing it to be a closet, but instead, it led to a stone staircase to the basement. I never really trusted Tyrone Power to be a responsible adult. If you ask me, when they started a new round because everyone had been found, except me, at my birthday party. I was playing sardines at a house party with friends. I eventually found everyone else in the living room eating cake. They all forgot I was playing. When I was a kid, my 2 older brothers would always make me be it. One time they both hid in a trunk full of clothes. I was probably 6 or 7. So I decided to lock them in. Only I didn't have a key. They panicked like crazy and were having trouble breathing. The babysitter was going crazy. I think she broke the lock eventually, but it was some scary moments. My grandmother lost her sister to a military latching trunk. She was 6, I think, and suffocated, only to be found many hours later. I was a waiter and some kids from a party I was serving played hide and seek, and about 5 minutes later they had to come back because the chef came to cook. Teppanyaki restaurant. There were 2 guardians looking after the children, and one of them realized that a child was missing and freaked out. It was like a mini manhunt in the restaurant. This was all done by the guardians. Since they didn't tell anyone, I just overheard them and decided to watch what they would do. After about 5 to 10 minutes of searching, the girl comes out crying they forgot about me. She was in the bathroom the whole time and she was quiet when they called for her because she thought they were still playing. Before I was born, my brothers and sisters played a game at my aunt's house down by the river. My eldest brother decided to hang by his fingertips inside the water well. Meanwhile, and unknowing of that fact, my other brother thought about hiding up inside the little steeple cover of the well, and to get to it needed to slam shut the well cover. LMAO. Slam. Blood-curdling scream. Splash. Cries for help. Between fits of unadulterated anger interspersed with disbelief and worry, my aunt, grandmother, and mom managed to get him pulled up, which wasn't easy, because with all of those smashed fingers of his he couldn't hold tight to a rope. That is straight up nightmare fuel. We had just recently moved into our neighborhood and my sister, 5 at the time, was playing hide and seek with a neighbor kid. Long story short, kid couldn't find her. All the adults started going around the neighborhood shouting for her. It was getting dark. After a while my parents called the police. Someone eventually found her and she said she did hear everyone looking for her, but she was playing hide and seek, so she wasn't coming out until someone found her. Parents called the police back and told them not to come. That's how we met most of our neighbors. Happy ending. I thought I would be clever and hide underneath an abandoned vehicle in somebody's yard. It was covered with hornets' nests underneath. I was the first one found. Got 63 stings. The fuckers chased me for a block, just like in a cartoon. Cloud of bees behind me. For future reference, if you just stand really still, the hornets will assume you're a plant or some shit and leave you alone. When I was about 8 years old, my little brother, who was 6 at the time, and my little sister, who was 3 years old, were playing some type of easy hide and seek in my grandparents' backyard. Well, there are woods behind their house. Our sister, being a defiant toddler, ran into the woods and my brother just saw her run in and ran in after her. They were in the woods for hours because she ran in so deep, and they both got turned around. Our brother found a hunting post, climbed up it into the tree, and found a way out. They then knocked on doors, covered in dirt and scratched up, until someone answered. A woman gave them a ride back, because our brother was able to point out landmarks to get back to our grandmother's house. They got back while my mother was on the phone with the cops. They were discussing a helicopter to find them. We were this close to an Amber Alert. They walked a collective 2 to 3 miles. They could have gone miles deeper into rural woods if they didn't keep going one way and find the post. So yeah, watch your damn kids, lol. Telling them don't go into the woods does not guarantee they will listen. Good thing your brother followed her. That may have ended much worse if he didn't. So when I was a wee kid and a scout, we played hide and seek in the dark. We usually played something like this every time the last 15 minutes. It was a medium-sized cabin, essentially. There was a lot of places to hide, lots of stuff just lying around. For some reason there was a coffin there and nobody, as far as I know, ever hid inside. Because it's a coffin, and that's just creepy, but my smartest hid inside it. Unlucky for me, another guy also looking for a hiding spot saw me. He decided to lock the coffin I was inside of. Yeah, I had claustrophobia for quite a while afterwards. Peas. I have an intense hatred of the name Marcus, because that was the bastard's name. I was a member of my university's hide and seek club, and at one point the police were called. However, we had proper signage up, so the police warned us to stay out of a part of the building as they were looking for a suspicious person. What neither the police nor we had figured out yet was that we were the suspicious figure that had been reported. I managed to send an entire store on lockdown and freak out my entire family. When I was maybe 5 years old, my family was at Lowe's, and I decided to take my Kirby plushie with me and hide behind some shelves or boxes and see if they could find me. Turns out they couldn't, and ran around outside because they thought someone kidnapped me. The entire store went on lockdown for a missing child. All the while I'm sitting, giggling, and waiting for them to find me. I eventually came out of hiding after my mom passed me and got in huge trouble afterwards. I never hid in public again as a kid. Wait, so is it like there's like a kid missing and was last seen here or whatever, and you're like, good thing that's not me, tee. Was playing hide and seek by a river while going camping. It was kind of dark out. Went to hide in some bushes near the river. Went to step into the bushes, and it was steep drop off into the river. Got completely soaked above my knees. It took them a while to find me though. That cold vended a hell of a lot worse than soaked legs. My 10-year birthday party. My friends and I played hide and seek Caterpillar edition. We put sleeping bags over us and wandered around in the dark to find each other. One of my friends lunges to tag another friend, fell and went top head straight into her face, knocked out 2 adult teeth, and broke her nose. Blood everywhere. She had to go and get surgery. Her parents threatened to sue my parents, but eventually got over it. She was never allowed to come to my house again. Sounds like the average game of night crawlers. Was playing hide and seek with 2 friends when we were like 10. Me and my friend found a fantastic spot and hid there together, and our other friend couldn't find us. Ended up going home to get his mom so she could tell us to come out and yell at us for hiding too well. Yes, this actually did happen. If I were that kid in that situation and I really couldn't find them whatsoever, and I was all alone, and even after a longer while they didn't come out, I get why he did that. I'd start to feel excluded and would probably get scared that something happened to you too. I'd be so lost that I wouldn't know what else to do other than running home. He probably didn't want you to get yelled at, and the mom was probably just stressed out too cause she thought there might be 2 kids missing. Also, she might have gotten upset about the fact that you left him alone for so long. All depends on for how long he was searching, of course. Oh, I have a good one. Didn't happen to me, but a friend of mine. But I was in that game of hide and seek. Here I go. When I was 8, I was at a birthday party of my neighbor's daughter. We had mutual friends, and one of them, let's call him Toby, wasn't really the brightest. We all weren't, but he took the cake, like eating a dead wasp once, and then wondering why his mouth was swollen. Anyway, the daughter then all challenged us to a game of hide and seek. For context, they lived on a farm which wasn't the smallest, so there was plenty of space to hide. But to not draw this game too lengthy, we all agreed to only hide in the barn and on the main plot, and not the meadow behind it. It only took the daughter about 15 minutes to find me and the other kids invited to the party, except for said Mr. Darkhead Toby. After about half an hour of searching for him, we started to get concerned. By this time, it was about 5:30 PM and we were all getting ready to go home, but Toby was nowhere to be found. Our parents agreed to let us stay until 7 PM, hoping that he was found till then. After Toby wasn't found, Toby's parents called the cops and a search squad was sent out. Still no sign of him. The cops gave up. The next morning, I woke up to my parents telling me, in a tone of relief, that Toby was found. Apparently what happened was that Toby somewhat got lost on said meadow and was only found 8 hours later standing on the side of a road that was 4 miles away with his shorts and t-shirt all ripped and damaged. He was only found after a relative spotted him with his headlights. Oh, did I mention that Toby was new to the area and didn't know where what was? We are still friends to this day, 18 years later, and whenever we are drunk or really bored, we bring this story up and just laugh our guts out about it. About him not being very bright, yeah. He now has his master's degree in mechanical engineering. So glad this story ended well, or else my life would be different now. Underrated story. We lost the kid in a hotel for about 2.5 hours and his mum was freaking out, getting the staff to look for him and threatening to call the police. Just to find out that the kid was hiding behind a stack of chairs under a staircase. I find it weird you said threatening to call the police, like that's an insane thing to do when a child goes missing. Had a friend who once hid in the trunk of his mom's car. Unknowingly she drove to the store, which was pretty funny and a pretty good place for not being found. I rode in my friend's trunk once in high school. Stupid, dangerous, and so much fun. One day I was playing hide and seek with my friends and hid in the trailer of a tractor. When coming out I fell, and I guess I hit my chest or something. But for a good while I lost my voice, couldn't even cry. Recycling bins in our local district used to simply be 80-liter containers. They looked like baby baths. My little sister was somewhat hit and miss with the game. She was either found first within the first 30 seconds of the game, or everyone would be out looking for her for most of the afternoon. She hatched a plan to hide under one of these containers that had been lying in the yard for weeks, and figured no one would have a chance to find her. The bins were black plastic, so no way to see inside of them. Suddenly as I started to search, she jumped out screaming in pain. Little did she know that a small family of bees were waiting for her. I hide in a tree in the park from my dad. Big park, right in the city. I was up there for about 2 hours. He passed under me several times, getting increasingly panicked, and I was like, I'm not falling for that one. Eventually I got bored and got down. Apparently right before he called the police. It wasn't horrible for me, but he was really terrified. Children would see and hear their parents screaming for them to come back and run because a tsunami is coming, and the child would be like, tee I'm not falling for that, and proceed to drown along with its parent, who died terrified and guilty for not rescuing their baby. My friend hid in the drawer under my bed. I found her and pulled the drawer out. When she moved forward to climb out, it tipped and the edge landed on my big toe. Fast forward 6 hours, and I'm in R&D having a hot needle jammed into my toenail to release the pressure of the blood that had built up behind the nail. Yes, it did spurt blood. But my toenail fell off a week or 2 later, which was pretty cool. We were about 8 years old. One of my friends hid under the bed, so his brother started jumping on the bed. He stuck his hand up to brace the bedding above him, and the next time his brother jumped it snapped his arm. I was about 5 years old playing hide and seek with my brother and sister. It was supposed to be inside only, but apparently I was a little cheat. I snuck outside and climbed into the backseat of my mum's car and fell asleep. Hours later my parents are freaking out, calling people to help look for me and screaming my name. I wake up and hear my name being called, panic scrambling out of the car and slam the door on my finger. It's still stuck bent at a weird angle to this day. A professor of mine had a similar story. His dad was a big-time lawyer in Detroit, often prosecuting members of the local mafia. One summer day, when he was about 7, he decided he was gonna go to work with his dad and hid in the backseat of the car that morning. Once they actually got to the firm, he didn't say anything and kept quietly hiding while his dad went in. Cut to a couple hours later, his mom is freaking out cause she can't find him. Because of his dad's profession, it's a genuine worry that their son has been kidnapped by some gang with a grudge. Meanwhile, he's starting to get heat stroke from being locked in a car during the middle of summer. Luckily, his dad found him when he was headed back to the car after getting the call from mom. When everyone forgot I was still hiding, and I was left in the cupboard for over 3 hours. I fucked up bad when I was like 9 or 10. visiting my cousins. They lived way out in the boonies of eastern Oregon. There's a sort of kind of large town slash small city called Bend, but they lived about 5 to 10 miles out of town, where rich people have large property. My aunt and uncle went into town to get groceries and left me and my cousin to watch the younger kids. We were playing hide and seek. They had an RV. I locked my cousin in the cabinet above the cab, then shut the door to the RV. I didn't realize the RV door locked behind me. My aunt and uncle had the key with them, miles away, of course. This was the era before cell phones. My cousin was screaming for us to let her out, and I was powerless to help her. She was in there about 15 minutes. I got my ass spanked that day. Not exactly horribly wrong, if you ask me, but when I was younger, like about 3 or so, my great grandmother was watching my younger brother, some cousins, and she decided hide and seek was a great idea, since we all weren't able to open any doors without her help. Well, I found this perfect spot tucked between the wall and a couch with a small coffee table between the arm of the couch and that wall. So I got under the coffee table. Well, I got too comfy, and I fell asleep. Back then I was a hard sleeper. My great grandma gets so worried that I somehow got out of the house. When I wouldn't respond to her calling out for me, she called the cops. The fire department shows up first and start asking her questions about what happened and all the basics. They decided to do a quick sweep of the house and make sure. Well, one of the firemen seen a little shadow move under the coffee table, me, and asked if my grams had a dog. She didn't. So the search was over, and my grams never wanted to play hide and seek again with me, and that kids is how I earned the nickname Hide. While shopping with my 5-year-old daughter, she ducked into a circular clothing rack. Unbeknownst to me, she had been standing right next to me, so I realized quickly she was missing, began freaking out, and screaming her name. They locked the store down and began searching everywhere. Only when they began paging her over the loudspeaker and asking other shoppers to be on the lookout did she pop out. Upon being reunited with me, she said, "Hi mommy, oh I forgot to tell you I was playing hide and go seek."